Hello, I'm Matt Donnelly, and this is your Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cleveland Browns Thursday Night Football game preview. And the Browns, they are opening this up right now as a 5.5-point favorites here, mostly because neither of these teams was very good last week. Look, what Thursday Night Football needs now is a quarterback more than ever, and neither one of these teams really has that going for them. We got Mitch Trubisky, we got Jacoby Brissett, but at least we've got two of the best runners in the game, right? Well, let's dive into the tail of the tape here, break down the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are coming off a loss last week to the New England Patriots, talk about the Cleveland Browns, who dropped that game to the New York Jets just a week ago. We'll try not to talk about it too much here, Browns fans. I got you. Don't worry. Hey, I'm a Raiders fan. Misery loves company, and I'm here for you. We'll start a little bit of a get-together, a little kumbaya a little bit later. I'll get in my DMs. We'll set up something, a little kind of a grievance kind of thing, as we kind of talk through all 7 stages here. Now, let's talk with the quarterbacks here because, hey, look, Pittsburgh, you're probably going to be joining me here because Mitch Trubisky, he is still under center. And I didn't think it was possible, but Mitch Trubisky may actually be worse than Ben Roethlisberger was. Now, look, the numbers, they don't lie. Roethlisberger, he averaged 6.2 yards per attempt in his final season. He only averaged less than 5.1 yards per attempt twice all of last season. Meanwhile, Mitch Trubisky, through 2 weeks, he is averaging just 5.1 yards per attempt. Of the 71 passes that Mitch Trubisky has attempted this season, he has almost as many behind the line of scrimmage, 15, as he has 20 yards down the field, 20. Last week against the Patriots, 14 of 21 completions came within 6 yards of that line of scrimmage, with only 1 completion on 4 passes going beyond 20 yards. Looking at the splits left versus right, much the same as what we've expected in the years past. While we made fun of Mitch Trubisky year in and year out, 14 of 17 to the left, 7 of 16 to the right with that interception. If Trubisky doesn't start pushing this ball down the field, the voices in the stands are going to continue to get louder and louder for Kenny Pickett. And trust me, Mitch Trubisky, he hears these. He says it's all part of the game, but it's got to affect you at some point. I know Mike Tomlin has already gone on record here saying this is going to be a red shirt season for Kenny Pickett, but when is enough enough? Whoever is under center in Pittsburgh, they are going to need that offensive line to do a better job protecting and giving them time in the pocket. So far, Trubisky, he is getting about 1.1 second per average there inside the pocket. That's right on par with Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, and Russell Wilson, who have all struggled so far this season. Meanwhile, guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, they are getting between 1.9 seconds and 2.7 to make those decisions in the pocket on average. That, and you know what? None of those guys have Matt Canada there calling plays, which is a huge part of whoever's under center, let's be honest. Now for the Cleveland Browns and Jacoby Brissett. After leading a game-winning drive back in week number 1, the Browns and Brissett, they kind of let that one get away from them there in week number 2. Now, while Brissett, he did toss that game-sealing interception, he was actually pretty good the rest of the way. Look, Cleveland, they were up 30-17 with less than 2 minutes left. So you can't pin this one on Jacoby Brissett. Brissett was 22 of 27 for 229 yards and a touchdown. And again, that interception there within the last 2 minutes of the contest, while rushing for an additional 43 yards. Look, Brissett, he isn't going to go out there and win games for you, but he's not going to lose them for you either. Again, last week, it's not on him. Cleveland is all about the run game and playing good defense, which is the kind of the part that they forgot to do in the last 2 minutes of the game. That is playing defense. Pittsburgh yielded 252 yards through the air to Mac Jones, who was managed to hook up with Nelson Aguilar for 110 yards and Jacoby Myers for an additional 95 last week. Now, talk about the running back position. It starts with Najee Harris and this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I have to give credit where credit is due. Najee Harris, he is built different. Despite dealing with Liz Frank injuries throughout the offseason and dealing with that ankle injury there in week number 1, Harris was out there again last week, totaling 89 yards on 20 touches. Perhaps the injuries are adding up. Maybe it's the 381 touches he had just a season ago. But Harris's running back share for the first 2 weeks is registering below 77%, which is a number that he only hit 3 times a season ago. Cleveland likes to get their safeties involved there, whether it's Grant Delpit there or John Johnson. Each of them had double-digit tackles, while Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah leads the team with 11 solo tackles in 2 games. Jaylen Warren only becomes fantasy relevant if Harris were to miss time. And by the looks of it, Harris, he doesn't want to miss any time. The guy is a warrior out there. Last week, Warren only saw 5 of 26 running back opportunities. That's carries and targets combined. And Harris had that edge in snap percentage there, 71-29. Now let's turn our attention to the Cleveland Browns backfield here, starting with Nick Chubb. The Browns, they rank first in the NFL in rushing yards and second in attempts behind Nick Chubb's 238 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on just 39 attempts. That's right. Nick Chubb is averaging 5.8 yards per carry this season. In 8 career games against the Steelers, Chubb has 647 total yards and a pair of scores. And heading into this contest, Chubb is coming off a 3-touchdown, 87-yard performance against those Jets. People need to stop this Chubb needed to go down nonsense. That touchdown, it put them up by 2 scores with less than 2 minutes left in the game. So I don't want to hear you guys blame Nick Chubb and how he should have gone down and let the clock run out. I mean, you're going up by 14 points against the Jets with like a minute 47. That should have been ball game. Miles Jack and Devin Bush, they need to make first contact stick in this contest. As Nick Chubb has forced 19 missed tackles so far this season, which is 6 more than anybody else. The other Browns back is Kareem Hunt. Hunt continues to play next man up in this Browns backfield as Chubb has an early edge through 2 weeks in carries and targets combined. As of now, Chubb has seen 4 targets with 39 carries, while Hunt has 24 carries and 6 targets. Now, wide receivers, Diontae Johnson, whether it's Ben Roethlisberger, whether it's Mitch Trubisky, one thing is certain, Diontae Johnson, he is going to get his target share. He's going to get 30% of the targets when it's all said and done. After 2 weeks, only 2 other receivers have seen at least 30% of a target share for the team, and that's Cooper Kupp and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Johnson has seen more than 10 targets in both games so far this season, resulting in 13 receptions. And since 2020, Johnson has seen 24 such games, while no other receiver has even seen 20. Now, despite all this opportunity, it has not led to production thus far, as Johnson has just 112 yards in 2 games. Then again, Claypool, he's got about 44 yards in 12 targets. And the rookie George Pickens, who I love that we're not going to go there right now, he has just 26 yards on 2 receptions. Perhaps better days are ahead. Maybe it's this Thursday. Joe Flacco, hey, he just threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns against his Browns secondary while feeding Garrett Wilson to the tune of 8 receptions on 14 targets for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now for some Canadian content, starting with Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Chase Claypool. Now Claypool, he says he's only doing what he's been told to do, which apparently is not a whole heck of a lot. So someone needs to start telling Chase Claypool he needs to start being productive. Whether that's Matt Canada, whether that's Mitch Trubisky, someone please tell Claypool to do something. Then again, he is technically the Steelers' second leading rusher there, trailing Najee Harris by only 36 yards. Meanwhile, those 36 yards he's got there rushing are only about 8 fewer than what he's got in the passing game. So who knows what to expect. But Claypool, please do something. And speaking of doing something, George Pickens. The good news, Pickens, he's on the field 97.2% of the Steelers' passing plays last week. The bad news, he caught 1 pass for 23 yards. It's not just last week, though. In 2 games, Pickens has run about 75 routes, and he's holding just 2 passes for 26 yards on 7 targets. This Steelers team, by their own admission, they know they need to get Pickens more involved. Let's see if they get that done here on Thursday. For Cleveland, it starts with Amari Cooper. It ends with Amari Cooper, and there's really nothing other than Amari Cooper here. Now, it's really hard to trust any pass catcher in this Browns offense until Deshaun Watson returns in week number 11. Last week, Cooper, he had a 37% target share, resulting in 68% of the Browns' air yardage. With 9 catches on 10 targets and 101 yards against the Jets, Cooper earned himself a PFF grade of 90.9, which is one of the best grades in week number 2. The other wide receiver there that we kind of mentioned there, but we probably really shouldn't, is Donovan Peoples-Jones. After seeing 11 targets and a 33% target share in week 1, there is very much a correction in this Browns passing game to get Peoples-Jones completely uninvolved here, as he was just seeing a single target against the Jets. Essentially, everything we said about Amari Cooper in week 2 is what we could have said about Donovan Peoples-Jones in week 1. Yeah, 30% target shares along with a 40% air share. This is why I have trust issues. You're giving this to Peoples-Jones one week. You're giving it to Amari Cooper this next week. I don't know who to trust, and I can't trust anyone in Cleveland right now in this passing game. Turning our attention to the tight ends here, we're going to start with Pat Freiermuth here. Outside of Diontae Johnson, the only other Steeler pass catcher you can really trust right now is Freiermuth there, as his 9 receptions are the 9th most among tight ends, while his 17 targets trails only Tyler Higbee, and Mark Andrews. Currently, Freiermuth is being asked to run a route on 78% of Mitch Trubisky's dropbacks and has been a favorite target, especially inside the 10-yard line. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is one of the most athletic linebackers in the NFL, so expect him to be on Freiermuth much of this contest, one-on-one. And when we look at PFF grades here, Owusu-Koramoah had a 91.9 PFF grade in week number 2. And through 2 weeks, he has a 91.4 PFF grade, which has him inside the top 10 among all defenders. And finally, those tight ends for the Cleveland Browns. Good luck trying to figure this one out because we've been trying to figure out all offseason. And here we are in week number 3, and we still haven't got any more clarity. I don't know what to tell you. David Njoku, he came into this year with all kinds of hype. And again, Njoku, he's been on the field. He's been registering an 89% snap count there in week number 1. He followed that up with a 94% snap share in week number 2. And if you're looking for a positive here, his target share, it did technically increase from 3.3 to 18.5% after being targeted 5 times against the Jets. Now, those targets resulted in just 3 receptions for 32 yards. So, look, 5 targets, 3 receptions, 94% snap share. There's no fantasy points in that. No, come on, man. Bryant, on the other hand, hey, he's been consistent, if not anything else, receiving 4 targets in each of the first 2 games, and including 45 yards last week. I have to say, you can't start either one of these guys any given week right now. But what you can do is you can head over to fantasypoints.com today. You can check out what kind of starts and sits and waiver advice that they got going on there, including their weekly projections. You want to save some money? You want to get that subscription to one of their packages they got? Use promo code 22Vipers10 and get 10% off today, and we will see you next time.